By the end of the 1960s, every major military power believed troop helicopters had a single job: carry soldiers or defend them, but never both. Inside the Soviet Union, Mikhail Mil's team aimed to break that rule. They proposed a flying armoured carrier that could storm the battlefield and deliver gunship fire at the same time. The result became both infamous and iconic: a machine that would terrorize Afghanistan, reshape global doctrine, and force the West to reconsider what helicopters could do. Why did the Soviets risk everything to build the Mi-24? And what did they learn when their flying tank first met real war? In 1966, as Cold War tensions pressed against every border, Soviet military planners faced a dilemma. Their analysis of the Vietnam War revealed the limits of separating troop transport from gunship firepower. American helicopters like the UH-1 Huey and the AH-1 Cobra often worked in tandem, but Soviet doctrine demanded something more. Planners wanted one machine that could carry infantry and fight as a gunship, operating deep behind enemy lines. Mikhail Mil, already a legend in Soviet aviation, proposed a bold answer. He envisioned a fast armoured helicopter that could storm the battlefield, land a squad of soldiers, and deliver heavy weapons fire all at once. His concept, detailed in a classified memo that year, described a flying armoured personnel carrier capable of surviving direct hits and supporting rapid ground advances. The idea challenged skeptics in the Ministry of Defense, who doubted the need for such a complex and heavy helicopter. Yet Mil found support among senior strategists, especially those who saw the value of airborne assault in a future war with NATO. By May 1968, a formal government decree authorized full-scale development of a new twin-engine assault helicopter. The Mil Bureau received orders to build a machine that could change the shape of the battlefield. Within a year, the first prototypes began to take shape, setting the stage for a new kind of air power that would soon be tested in conflicts far beyond Soviet borders. Designers at the Mil Bureau faced a dilemma that shaped every line of the new helicopter: how much protection could be added before performance suffered. Soviet battlefield doctrine demanded a machine that could survive intense ground fire, deliver troops, and keep fighting. The result was an armour-first philosophy, rare among helicopters of the era. Engineers wrapped the cockpit in titanium and steel plates, shielding the crew behind bullet-resistant glass thick enough to stop heavy machine gun rounds, boosting survivability. Critical systems, engines, the transmission, and the fuel tanks received their own armoured shells. Even the rotor blades were built with composite layers and titanium to absorb damage that would down a lighter craft. Every kilogram of armour carried a price. The Mi-24's empty weight soared well above Western gunships, and its silhouette grew broader to accommodate the armoured cockpit and troop bay. Agility was sacrificed for resilience. Pilots accepted that the Hind would never match the nimble turns of an AH-1 Cobra. Instead, the design prioritized straight-line speed and the ability to take hits and keep flying. This uncompromising approach earned the Mi-24 its reputation as the flying tank. Soviet engineers saw survivability as non-negotiable. Better to lose some maneuverability than risk losing aircraft and crew to enemy fire. The armoured shell defined the Hind's role on the battlefield, setting it apart from every Western helicopter in the sky. Inside the Mi-24, the rear cabin stretches just long enough for 8 fully armed soldiers, seated on simple benches along the walls. The space is tight, with every inch designed for speed and function. Access comes through clamshell doors at the back, which swing open wide to let troops pile out in seconds. Soviet doctrine called for rapid insertions. Touchdown, doors open, soldiers out, and the helicopter airborne again, before enemy fire could find its mark. In Afghanistan, crews rehearsed these landings until they became muscle memory. The pilot would flare hard, the engineer would pop the doors, and the squad would leap into dust and gunfire, covering each other as the Hind lifted away. A former pilot put it simply: you had to be quick. The longer you sat, the more dangerous it got. The rear compartment could also be reconfigured for stretchers, turning the Hind into a flying ambulance when needed. This dual-purpose layout, part assault transport and part medevac, set the Mi-24 apart from Western gunships that left troop delivery to other helicopters. For Soviet troops, those clamshell doors meant the difference between a fast strike and a deadly delay. Twin TV3-117 turboshaft engines gave the Mi-24 its defining edge. Each engine produced over 2,200 shaft horsepower, sending power through a central gearbox to the 5-blade main rotor and the 3-blade tail rotor. This power delivery resulted in a top speed of nearly 335 km per hour, exceptional for a helicopter of this size and weight. At high speed, the Mi-24's stub wings came into play. Unlike most helicopters, these wings provided up to 25% of total lift, offloading the main rotor and allowing the airframe to carry more weight without sacrificing speed. The wings also carried 4 hardpoints on each side, supporting a range of weapons: 57mm rocket pods, bombs, auxiliary fuel tanks, and anti-tank guided missiles. The Mi-24V's primary missile, the 9M114 Sturm, known to NATO as the AT-6 Spiral, could destroy armoured vehicles at ranges up to 5 kilometers. In the chin turret, a Yak B 12.7mm 4-barrel Gatling gun delivered a blistering rate of fire, providing suppressive power during troop insertions and assaults. Together, these systems turned the Mi-24 into a true flying tank, able to strike hard and fast while carrying a full combat load. Aviation author Yefim Gordon describes the Mi-24 as a direct answer to Soviet demands for a helicopter that could do more than just attack, one that could carry troops, deliver heavy firepower, and survive on modern battlefields. He points to the Mil Bureau's decision to use 2 TV3-117 engines and a main rotor system adapted from the Mi-8, which gave the Hind both the speed and the muscle to carry a full load of soldiers and weapons. A senior Mil engineer explains that the gearbox sits high above the cabin, armoured on all sides, channeling more than 4,400 shaft horsepower to the rotors, a design choice intended to prioritise reliability and power. He recalls factory tests where armour plates absorbed repeated hits from 12.7mm rounds, protecting the crew and vital systems. He also notes the trade-off. Every layer of steel meant more weight, making the Hind less agile than its Western rivals. Military historian Tom Cooper explains that in Afghanistan, pilots quickly learned to use the Hind's straight-line speed and heavy armour to survive machine gun fire and rocket attacks. He cites maintenance logs showing Hinds returning with dozens of bullet holes, yet still flying, a testament to their durability. A former pilot adds that you felt safe behind the glass and armour, but when the missiles came, you had to trust your training and your luck. Afghanistan became the ultimate test for the Mi-24. Soviet pilots flew tens of thousands of combat sorties across rugged valleys and high-altitude passes, where small arms fire and heavy machine guns waited below. Maintenance logs from Bagram and Shindan show Hinds returning with dozens of bullet holes, sometimes limping back on a single engine. Armour around the cockpit and engines often saved crews from DS, HK and Zu-23 hits, but the helicopter's weight and size made it a target during low-level attacks. In 1986, the battlefield changed almost overnight. American-supplied Stinger missiles reached the Mujahideen, bringing a new threat the Hind's armour could not stop. Soviet records and Western studies estimate that out of roughly 70 to 80 Mi-24s lost in Afghanistan, about half in the war's final years fell to infrared guided missiles. Crews adapted by flying higher, adding flare dispensers and exhaust suppressors. But the days of low, aggressive rocket runs were over. The Hind's reputation for toughness was secure, but its vulnerabilities were now clear. Mi-24s that survived Afghanistan didn't stand still. Soviet engineers pushed out the Mi-24V adding new Sturm anti-tank missiles and the first real suite of countermeasures, flare dispensers, infrared exhaust suppressors and radar warning receivers, direct answers to the threat from heat-seeking missiles. The Mi-24P followed, swapping the chin-mounted Gatling gun for a fixed 30mm cannon on the starboard side, giving the Hind even more punch against armour and bunkers. Later upgrades brought night vision equipment, thermal imagers, and digital navigation, transforming these helicopters into all-weather hunters. The Hind's design proved so adaptable that more than 50 countries adopted it, from Eastern Europe to Africa and Latin America. Exported as the Mi-35, the type fought in nearly 30 conflicts, serving with both superpower clients and rivals. Even as Russia fielded the Mi-28 Havoc and Ka-52 Alligator, the Hind's influence lived on. Those new helicopters inherited the focus on armour, firepower, and battlefield survivability. Today, modernised Hinds fly alongside their successors, a living link to Cold War engineering and doctrine. Today, Mi-24s still fly combat missions from Ukraine to Africa, proof that a Cold War gamble became a global military standard. As conflicts evolve, the world keeps turning to machines built for speed, firepower, and survival. The Hind's legacy is not history, it is current events. Share your thoughts below.